Hey there, CJ Math students. Welcome to Homework 98, area of triangles and trapezoids. So as you watch the video, you can go ahead and check off right here. If you need to call me, you may call for help. Just to give you a quick showing, like on Edpuzzle, it tells me exactly who's done the video and who hasn't. So make sure that you get a score at the very end. So like even if you're a person like right here, that means you have like one or two more questions left to do at the end. So please make sure that you finish those out. All right, back to today's stuff. So today, I want you to know that a rectangle can always be cut in half to produce two triangles, two right triangles. So if we know that a rectangle's area formula is area is equal to base times height, or length times width, and we know that a triangle is half of a rectangle, then we can write our triangle formula as A equals 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. It doesn't matter which way you choose to write it. So let's see how this looks out in a couple of these problems right here. And taking a look at this triangle, we see that it has a base of 5 squares and a height, that's again just like we learned yesterday coming off the right angle, a height of 7 squares. So you can write our formula, area is equal to 1/2 base times height, and then plug in your numbers. Area is equal to 1/2, 5 times 7. Now it really doesn't matter if you choose to take half of 5 and then multiply by 7, or if you choose to do 5 times 7 and then take half of that. It's really up to you. In this case, it'd be really nice if I gave you like an even number. I always like to put the even number next to a half because it's easy to take half of that even number. But in this case, just go ahead and do area is equal to 1/2 of 35. That's what 5 times 7 is. And then area is equal to 17.5 units squared. That's what that U means. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So we got our formula, area equals 1/2 base times height. We got our base of 14, so that's why I plug in 14 for our base. And we got our height of 16, so that's why I plug in 16 for our height. So again, it doesn't matter if you decide to do 14 times 16 and then take half of that, or take half of 14 and then multiply it by 16. And that's exactly what I did here. I took half of 14, which gave me 7, and then I did 7 times 16, and I got 112 inches squared as my area for my triangle. All right, let's do this last one. So again, we got our triangle. Again, our base in this case is going to be 3.5, and our height in this case is going to be 2. That's always our dotted line. So 1/2 base times height. And now notice what I do here. I kind of switch the base and the height. I put the even number right next to the half. So I put my 2 right next to 1/2. And I put 3.5 right on the other side. It does not matter if you switch those up. I did that because it's easier to take half of 2 than it is to take half of 3.5 in my mind. So half of 2 is 1. So that's how I got half of 2 right there to give me 1. And then 1 times 3.5 is just 3.5 meters squared. So that is the area of a triangle. 1/2 the base times the height. Why? Because a triangle is half of a rectangle. And if the rectangle formula is base times height, the triangle formula is just 1/2 base times height. All right, let's take a look at our next shape. So all the shapes we have here are trapezoids, but I want you to notice that every trapezoid is made up of a rectangle and 1 or 2 triangles attached to it. So here's a rectangle and 2 triangles, here's a rectangle and 1 triangle, here's a rectangle and 2 triangles. So a trapezoid is a rectangle and a triangle combined. All right, so if you think about that, that is going to give us our area formula for a trapezoid. Here's the area formula for a trapezoid. Your area is going to be equal to 1/2 your bases, because there's 2, so base 1 plus base 2, the bottom and the top, times your height. Now we can write this a whole bunch of different ways. We could also instead write this as area is equal to 1/2 times the height, and then times base 1 plus base 2. We could write this as area equals height times base 1 plus base 2, all divided by 2. It's all dependent on kind of what you're given in the trapezoid. So it might be easiest in this one just to plug in our bases and our height. So 6 is our height, and our 2 bases are 8 and 16. It doesn't matter which one you label as base 1 or base 2. So as I plug in, I'll say A equals 1/2. My first base will say 16 plus my second base, 8, times my height, which is 6. And so now it does matter because you have order of operations. You got to do parentheses first. So area is equal to 1/2. 16 plus 8 is 24. Keep that in parentheses. Times 6. And now it's probably pretty easy just to take half of 24 and then multiply by 6. But you could also, if you wanted to, do 24 times 6 and then take half of that. You could also, since you got a calculator, just throw it all into your calculator at one time. So half of 24 is going to give me 12, right? Just 24 divided by 2. So again, I got 12 by taking half of 24. And you're not done, times 6. So your area is equal to 72 centimeters squared. You might want to pause this, rewind, watch it again, because this one can be tricky. Let's do the next one. So you'll notice in this problem, as I look at my bases, I see 10, I see 13, and then I see a height of 8, right? It's the dotted line, but that dotted line just goes straight across to that 8 right there. And you'll notice 10 and 13, that's an odd number, and 8 is an even number. So I wrote my formula with height coming right next to the 1/2 because it's easier, again, to take half of an even number. So area is equal to 1/2 times 8 times 10 plus 13. I could easily say 13 plus 10. It doesn't matter the order that I put those two bases in. So again, half of 8, or just 8 divided by 2, is going to be area is equal to 4 times 10 plus 13. And I could distribute here, or I could just say, hey, 10 plus 13, that's 23, so area is equal to 4 times 23, and I have my area of 92 inches squared. So again, there I liked putting the height first in that formula because I saw that it was even, and therefore I wanted to take half of an even number. It's easier than taking half of an odd number. If I did the number 2 exactly like I did number 1, I would still come out with the same answer. It just would require me to take half of an odd number, which would give me a decimal that I would then multiply, but I would still get 92 inches squared. All right, so the last one here, I'm going to use area is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2. That's always the formula for a trapezoid. You'll notice my height is 4. That's right next to my dotted line, and my two bases are 7 and 12. 5 is an extra number. We don't even use it. All right, so when I plug this in, I put my 4 right by where my height was supposed to be, and I put my 7 and 12 right for base 1 and base 2. Again, it does not matter what order I put those in. And then I'll say area is equal to what's half of 4, that's 2, times 7 plus 12. And then area is equal to 2 times what's 7 plus 12, that's 19. And area is equal to 2 times 19, which is 38 inches squared. Remember, all area units are always inches squared. All right, so as you go to the back, you've got some practice problems here that I'll ask you to do in Edpuzzle. I'll always show you the answer afterwards. But remember that your triangle formula is area is equal to 1/2 base times height. And your trapezoid formula, you can write it a whole bunch of different ways, but as area is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. And you can move that around if your height is, like, say, an even number and you want to take half of an even number rather than take half of an odd number. All right, so let's go ahead and do that first one. I've set it up for you. Area equals 1/2 base times height. I got my base of 12 and my height of 5. I plugged those guys in. So now area is equal to 1/2 of 12. Half of 12 is 6. So 6 then times 5 is your answer of 30 centimeters squared. All right, dotted line's always your height. Number 2, I'm going to have you do in Edpuzzle. Remember, you're working with area equals 1/2 base times height. So your answer for number 2 should have been A. Number 3, again, I'll have you do in Edpuzzle. On number 3, when you do it in Edpuzzle, yes, it's area equals 1/2 base times height, but it might be better to write this as 1/2 of 18 and 9 because 18 is an even number. So in number 3, you end up getting 81 squared, so you get your answer D. And now I want you to notice something about 1, 2, and 3, right? I could have easily just did 12 times 5, that's 60, and then divided by 2, and that would have gotten 30. I could have easily did 6 times 5, right? My base and height, just like a rectangle, and then just divided by 2. And I would have gotten 30 divided by 2 is 15. I could have easily done 9 times 8, right? Base times height, just like a rectangle. 9 times 18, excuse me, is 162, and then divide that by 2, and I would have gotten 81 again. So it doesn't matter what you use. Basically, the formula is the same as a rectangle, base times height, but then just remember to take half of it because a triangle is half of a rectangle. So 4, 5, and 6 you're going to do on your own. Again, base times height, but then just remember to divide by 2. So don't get freaked out by it at all, right? Now, problem like number 8 is a trapezoid. So we want to do area is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. It makes sense for us to put our height last here because in this case, our height is an odd number. So we don't want to take half of an odd number. And our base is 11 and 5. They're both odd, but when I add them together, 11 plus 5, I get 16, which is an even number. So that's going to be a lot easier to take half of an even number. So 1/2 base 1, 11 plus 5. It doesn't matter whether you label that base 1 or base 2. And then times 7. Right? So order of operations says we should do our bases first. Right? So 11 plus 5 is 16. So then it's a lot easier to take 1/2 of 16, right? Half of 16 is 8, and then 8 times 7 is your answer of area is equal to 56 centimeters squared. Again, if you're like, whoa, this is way too hard, stop it, rewind it, watch it again until you kind of pick up on it. All right? Number 9, we've got our height of 3, our bases of 6 and 8. So again, I think it would make sense for us to put the height at the end because 3 is an odd number, 6 and 8 when you add them together is an even number. So area is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. That's always your formula, right? Unless you want to move the height around. So area is equal to 1/2. Your bases are 8 and 6, 8 plus 6, and your height is 3. So area is equal to 1/2 of what is 8 plus 6? Well, that is 14 together times 3. And again, it's a lot easier to take half of 14 than it is to do 14 times 3. So, and then take half of that. So half of 14 is area is equal to 7 times 3. And then area is equal to 21 centimeters squared because that's what 7 times 3 is. Don't forget to circle your answers on your paper there. All right? I'd like you to do number 10 in Edpuzzle. It might make more sense when you do number 10 in Edpuzzle this time to put your height first because your height, as you can see, is an even number. It's a lot easier to take half of an even number than it is an odd number. So base 1 plus base 2, but with height first this time. So you can see in number 10, your answer should have been 46 centimeters squared. 4 is your height, 14 and 9 are your bases. Half of 4 is 2, 14 and 9 added together give you 23, and then 2 times 23 is 46, okay? So I want you to do these three problems here all on your own. And then what I'd like you to do on this problem is find me the area of the rectangle. That should be easy. Remember, area of rectangle is just base times height. So you got your base and you got your height. And then add that to the area of the triangle, which hopefully you see right up here. Here's your triangle up here. You'll notice that, again, triangle's area is equal to 1/2 base times height, and you might be thinking, well, I see the height is 3, but where's my base? Well, if this is 12, then this is also 12, and there's your base, 12. So find the area of the rectangle, find the area of the triangle, add them together, and you should get your answer. And then don't forget, after you're done with your quizzes video, you're not done. You've got that quizzes code right there. You should do it 2 times, and if you are stuck, please give me a call. All right, thanks, that's it.